live broadcast. Okay, I think we're up. Might be a little quiet, no, but it's okay. It's evening mode. The kids are sleeping, and here we are. What I wanted to do, be consistent, number one, and then talk about summary of the research I did uh, this morning. So did quite a bit of research. Here's the summary, and I'm going to share out these notes afterwards. But I continued on with the discovery work around open um, OpenAI documentation. This is where we were. Initially, I had wanted to go, I had started in the, uh, prompt engineering, because that, it seemed to be core concept, right? Text image, but then I started, going down prompting, overview, prompt caching, prompt engineering. So I had gone down this, like, well, why don't I start at the start? And that's what I did. It's quick start. I actually ran the quick start, um, which took a little bit. If we still have it up here, I think it's preview. Oh, yeah, it's in here. Samples. And I think my VM here. It was a pretty good experience, because normally you'll read the documentation, like, oh yeah, I get it. It runs. But that led to a couple different things. It led me to, actually read the documentation and try it out. Because one of the things I thought was super valuable from this exercise was just running and seeing the results. So here we run it, we'll step over. Now we get a response. And now what I think is good to do is make sure it's hydrated. Next call, good return. Let's start it. If it runs without debugging. The point I was trying to make is, when you run the sample, you get more hands on. And yes, you could have the agent do it and type this out for you and run for you and fix errors. But even some of the simple things that you forget um, are good to do. Oh, there it is. Oh, because this was a bigger one. The first one was literally, give me a story about unicorns. Yeah, I want to do that. Write a one sentence bedtime story about a unicorn. So, really get your hands on, and then just change it. Start with debugging. And a couple of things that you notice, you get to, like, oh, okay, here's the API key. I grabbed that from PyEmp. .env. Where it is. It's python.env is the. Then if you step, so then you can look at the client and you see the special additional information. you start to get a feel for what it is. Here's completions. Okay. This is the the OpenAI client. And you step over it. There you go. There's input. There's the response. Goes out, makes the call. Now you have the response, and then there's this, output text. And in the documentation, yes, it says that output text is a convenience method, and to really look at, um, you know, the different types, right? And then this goes back to the different. So you might want to play with how do we get it to return JSON? What's in the response output? So explore, really take a look. Okay, for output. Oh, output. It's like there's a collection, and it's of type response reasoning item. Huh, that's interesting. What's a response reasoning item? So one of them, special variables, function variable. So this is a reasoning model. What happens if we try just a regular GPT model? Just really how you can really get your hands dirty to see and play with it to kind of understand what's going on. I thought that was useful, and then I had changed the prompt because I wanted to see some of this reasoning, this response reasoning item get allocated. I really don't see anything. Yeah, there was no summary. There's nothing really in that object. It didn't look like. Um, so you could see that here. The summary type reasoning content none. I'd be interested to see what makes you get reasoning content, and how do you get that reasoning content? Like how do you get the plan? You, let's see. So that was the overview. The quick start. Oh, this one was interesting because this is the actual documentation for the OpenAI Python API. And in the example, you can see the different, JavaScript. I think even where it says quick start, getting started with not the real-time API agent, take action. Where's the one? Oh, setting up your environment, configuring your environment. So, use one of our officially supported SDKs. That's a good trivia. What are the official SDKs? Here's our answer. Looks like there's SDKs for JavaScript, Python, .NET, Java, and Go. So there you go. And then I think there are non-official ones for, those are all officials, and it looks like, please note, OpenAI doesn't confirm the correctness, so there's community libraries that'll actually do the same thing. And I'm assuming interact with the control plane. Oh, excuse me. Getting a little late for me, but I wanted to get this stream out there for reference. So that was good. Learn, be curious. See what else we can go. So that was the overview, the quick start, getting it running in Python. Of course, that's, oh, I'm going to use UV, or I'm going to use pip, or what's installed on my machine. I'm going to use Python. Might be useful to just try it out in a different language, because sometimes you'll be constrained by the control plane, especially if you're, in my case, I'm a solution architect where I've worked at many different companies, and some teams will work in Java. Some teams will be more familiar with .NET. Python might be the focus, or people want to learn a particular language, or you think you want to you want to mature the organization's capabilities in a particular language because you see that there's something in the future. So if you do like some of the small projects now, and you get get the resources up to speed or get the organization familiar with programming in a particular language or style. Um, you know, that's kind of helpful in the decision process of, what's available and what the organization can do. See the safety overview. I didn't go in too deeply on that, but what section? There was a section of the platform overview. I thought really quick. API keys. You take it for granted that you know how APIs work and getting keys and getting authenticated, but it does take some work. And with all the work with Open Web UI that we've been doing, text generation. I think this was last night where we went down the prompt engineering. And then what I haven't done is gone deeper on GPT-5. That does lead me to one of the other takeaways from today was the GPT-5 system card. And let me go back for a second because it was actually this slide. Yeah, and it was in security and safety overview. Yeah, I think this might. Yeah, this is it. So I wasn't familiar with the red teaming term, but then of course you look it up, red teaming. Um, or did I look it up? Did I really? Uh, red teaming. Do 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 do. So red teaming is a practice of simulating realistic adversarial attacks to robustness detection and response capability. I thought this was interesting, and this kind of got me um, to try to understand more. Boy, yeah, yeah, and then, our approach to safety. What was the other one? Yeah, and I saw the system cards. I didn't know. Oh, what's a system card? These are very interesting because looking at the system card, it tells you, and you can get the system cards for, here's the GPT-5 published, and we can look at the table. Hard refusal, the safe completion, disallowed contact, sycophancy. There was a whole nother article around this, and I had to look up the word. So here, um, it's insincere flattery. Like the one example that kind of sticks in my head is, um, is selling ice cubes in the middle of winter a good idea or something? Oh yeah, that's a really good idea. Or poop on a stick. That was one of the ones that was like, oh yeah, well yeah, that's a great business idea. You should definitely do it. I wrote some notes where it was more like, tell the truth. Yeah, truth seeking over anything else. Is like, give it to me straight. Don't try to be flattering it at all. So I think that was an interesting take. Back model. Question from before. Where I started last night or where I stayed, going down the rabbit hole of, the SDK, was like, oh, stainless. I heard that before. Seems like that's how they generated some um, of the SDKs based on lines I saw. Here's all right. Here's back where we were. So the system card, um, like, oh, this is interesting, and it explains how it is, how it works. Um, Comparison between GPT-5 models and successors to previous models. Talks a little bit about the model router, some consumption on how it does that sort of routing to proxy the request to the right size model for optimization and everything. So it was really interesting. Yeah, and this one too. And then it goes. The model card is pretty deep. I really burned myself out towards the end of the morning, um, looking through a lot of these. But terms like jailbreaks, that might be something to dig into a little bit deeper. Safety, security, prompt safety. Talked about the different illicit, nonviolent crime prompts, violence prompts. So if you're building an agentic system, that kind of the key takeaway from guardrails or prompt safety was, if you have an agent that is based in a particular domain, um, you really want it to focus on just something in that domain and not to be coerced or manipulated into kind of doing something else. And we talked about it before, but I think as you constrain the developer prompt or the developer message and the user message, that's kind of one of those ways that you can control it and underlying the system prompt that's embedded in the model. Uh, that'll, the machinery for the reinforcement training at the end kind of bakes in some of these criteria. So, um, and one of the things is like it was black and white in the past. Was it investigations? Um, Action, multi-layer browsing process, coding prompt injection, hallucinations, and then a bunch of different scenarios. What was I was trying to think back to um, what did it forget? Come back. So that was really cool. System car, being able to kind of read that. I was gonna go agent system card. I didn't read the whole depth, but that was actually before, and then they can compare some of the things with the newer one. Uh, Expanding on that, they kind of explain what they missed. It's pretty good to listen to this article. Big fan of listening. Train of thought modeling and etc. And some of the other things. So yeah, I think that's about it. It'll probably be a little shorter than a larger stream, but we set up the sample, tips for debugging, the message hierarchy on OpenAI models, the system message, the developer message, user message, and then the assistant. You have a chat. The system cards are model cards. I had just seen model cards in some of the full llama models. It has a model card. I think it's going to be more interesting. Oh, that was the other one. There's this. So if you think about how the foundational model is laid, so if you're building on top of the foundation model, and so you should read the system card of the foundation model or models in the case of GPT-5, or you're routing things where you're most likely to land, or you can specifically bind to the specific model, whether that's nano, mini, etc. But that's really, that's the base of the foundation for kind of the logic, I guess, or the intelligence in this case. And then on top of that system card, you build, your various prompts, developer, user, and then the context that you bring to the conversation. And there might be some tuning to, bundle that all together. But that will be important in agentic systems to get a full understanding. And I think it did go through and talk about some of the versioning strategy. That was more on the eval side of things. Again, to dive in a little bit. Yeah. This occurs when an agent agrees with incorrect situations or amplifies biases rather than providing accurate information. If you go into a particular conversation with the LLM and you have some bias going into it, it'll just kind of like lean into the biases, and even though they could be wrong. And here's some of their, RLHF, or reinforcement learning from human feedback, human in the loop, over rewards on user alignment. Consensus-based fact-checking, tool assisted people for factual grounding. A whole nother thing I want to get into is, when does it use tools? When should we use tools? When do we depend on, the model's use of tools? I think some of the agent stuff will go deeper into that. Reducing incorrect. What was the other one? It was like the parallel use. Go back because that was pretty interesting. It was in the model car. We do. Here's a deeper reasoning model for harder problems. Real-time router who decides to think about this. Finish the trains. This was cool. So, I think this is it. In ChatGPT, we also provide access using a setting that makes use of parallel test time compute. We refer to this in GPT-5 Thinking Pro. And what I've understood from test time, like parallel test time compute, it will actually reason in multiple paths, make a judgment on like those different paths. Yeah, evaluations for other models. I think I had a sub chat after I saw that because I'm a big fan of performance, parallel, compute, cluster compute, etc. Like, I was like, oh, that it really kind of gets me going when I see the word parallel. um, but that was pretty interesting to see how they approach that problem. All right, system cards, model card, agent system. Agents can call tools, which, this is interesting, but this kind of expands security posture and footprint. It's just going to be an interesting time if, tool environments, and, what happens if you have a bug in a tool environment, if you're doing calculations. A whole nother architectural consideration. That was incorrect agreement. Yeah. Pro tips, next step. We talked about this a little bit in the beginning. Run the sample, look at the object model, see what's in it, see what's, play around, change some things, test, iterate, get your hands dirty. I'd like to, you, in previous years or throughout my career in technology, sometimes you'll see these demos and they just work. And like cloud demos, like, hey, all you have to do is stand this environment up and it works, and magic, and everything's well and good. But then when you go through the motions, and it's not a copy paste kind of exercise, and it's not as easy as you think. I've even run into this with some things where if you get into some of the nuance of setting up and configuring cloud, um, you'll quickly reach the boundaries of where the cloud control plane is, and the very nuanced, fragile configurations you need to set in order to get it to work. Um, so you really got to get your hands dirty and figure out what's really going on, you know. Um, but the good thing is, as you get your hands dirty, and if you get into more complex projects, you can use GitHub Copilot, Klein, Rue, Cursor, Insert, those other powered IDE environments, and kind of bring that intelligence as you're going through the iteration. There's this weird mode where you're in this like autocomplete when you try to depend on the agent and you don't have the right context, and the agent tries to figure out some basics. The basics are much faster for you to figure out in the context prior to kind of going into the agentic mode. That's why I think architecture is such a, like, the fundamentals of architecture, abstractions, and putting systems together are so important now, so that you have the appropriate context to solve these problems. It kind of sets the frame, sets the guardrails for what's um, in the realm of possibilities for some of the large language models and the agentic kind of workflow. Noted but out of scope. Yep, JSON lines, formats, stainless SDK. I thought that was interesting. So, in summary, I did all this morning. I have a bunch of different videos, but truth be told, I will not have time to edit them. I just have them raw for my notes. Maybe I'll run them through Whisper. Just suffer from bit rot, but that's okay. It was good to capture it and then kind of summarize. This is like distillation. First, it was a couple hours. Then I did a review of the working session. That was another 20, 30 minutes. And then I wrote some rough notes around the links that I wanted to use. And then I used LLM for ChatGPT to kind of sort through. And that's what you're seeing here. And, got the diagram wrong. I fixed the diagram, but it did fill in the rest of the details. So we reviewed the agentic workflows and tool usage. Did we do that? I didn't dive deep enough in that, so it's still kind of on that. Yeah, definitely investigated this. Oh, what? Oh, all right. And document future research. Yeah, so I did take some notes on what was gonna go, what was gonna happen. Do you think will happen? So, yeah, really, really cool. Didn't even dive into images and vision, uh, audio and speech. Oh, another one is I actually had the desktop version of ChatGPT open in audio mode, muted as I ran into questions. I asked them. Then that interface kind of fell down a little bit, so I wrote a structured prompt to kind of get additional details to explain, that parallel thing, um, synchronicity, whatever that word is. I still haven't learned yet. Structured output with like that. This is really the next. Um, this is the next piece for the next session. We'll definitely be on using GPT-5, the best practices. I've used it a bunch in GitHub Copilot in the past couple weeks since it came out. I forget which day it came out, but it was soon available. I also use GPT-5 in Microsoft Copilot or M365 Copilot at work, and I find it to be that research capability and the reasoning very helpful. It'd be very, very good to see. Now looks like there's some demos. Faster responses. Oh, and I've said this before, but I'll say it again, is calling the GPT-5 chat from OpenWebUI. It's so much faster than the actual chat interface, and I don't know, but that's okay. I have a history, so I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna leave it there for tonight. I just wanted to be consistent, get another stream out there. Current live stream. I hope I was streaming this whole time. If not. Oh yeah, here it is. In here. So yeah. And just like always, we'll have a little outro. A good person is always learning, and definitely continue to learn in public. All right. Thanks for listening. Catch